Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. It's Workshop Wednesday. Today, it's an updates episode because we're doing What's New, where we go back over the past month and take a look at all the new features and updates released to Google Analytics and Tag Manager and Data Studio and oh, so many others. We actually have a special guest appearance today by a platform you probably haven't used for a little while, but I want you to. It's kind of a cool thing. All right, before we get too far into this, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io. And whether you found us through our podcasts and talks that we give, by the way, always looking for more cool podcasts. So if you know of a good podcast that I should be a part of, or maybe you've got a podcast and you want to have a little chat about numbers and helping businesses grow their numbers, go ahead and go out to our website and you'll see a little place to kind of put some information. I'd be happy to help you out. Maybe you found us through some of the other platforms we work with, like CXL Institute or Social Media Examiner or Digital Marketer or Measure Summit. Maybe you're already a member at measurementmarketing.io. Remember, we've got two types of memberships. We've got the Measurement Marketing Academy, where our paid members are, all the instructor support, and the free membership for those of you just getting started or want to learn more about us. It's called the Toolbox membership, and we'll talk more about that later on. But first, it's our job to help people like you figure out how to use tools like this. And of course, we're going to do that using the Measurement Marketing Framework, which we talk about all the time. 5 key steps: planning, got to make sure you're asking the right questions, that you are collecting the right information to answer those questions, and ultimately, most importantly, that you must be taking actions based upon the answers and think about that ahead of time. Then you do your build out using Tag Manager and Analytics and, collecting the right information to get answers to the questions. Then you build your reports using something like Data Studio. Then you start to forecast your results based on the information that you're getting back and the answers that you're getting. And then you optimize because you're going to send traffic and you're going to measure actual results against your forecast. That's how you know where to optimize, what's working and what's not. It's the beauty of this whole system. It works really, really well. Now, in this workshop, we're going to go through the updates that have happened in November 2020 for Analytics and Tag Manager, Data Studio, and special guest appearance. Actually, I'm going to keep that one a surprise because it's coming up first. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Just remember, just pick one new thing, practice that, then you can come back, watch this again, pick another new update to play around with. It's the best way. Otherwise, there's just too much and it's too easy to get overwhelmed. All right, let's go ahead and jump in, shall we? What's new? Updates released in November 2020 for Google Analytics, Tag Manager, Data Studio, and more. And we're actually going to start with none of those because we have a special guest appearance by Google Optimize, which I know we don't really see a whole lot, but it's got a couple of updates that pop through in November. So if you are using this platform currently, you may already know about one of these, but I wanted to make sure that if you aren't, it's just another reason to maybe keep an eye on this platform. It's pretty cool. It's doing a lot of tight integration with Google Analytics, so it's worth taking a look at. I'll start with, I'm going to go into one of our ended tests here from way back in the day. It's a little test account. And I want to point out one of the changes, and you may have seen this, is right in here where it says the redirect test must include the optimized snippet, learn more. This is popping up now because there was an update in early November 2020 where Google Optimize no longer uses parameters in the redirect process. It used to do that. It used to use parameters in the redirects, and if those parameters weren't there, things would break, sessions would break. It doesn't do that anymore. So they changed how redirects happen, but you have to make sure the snippet is in everything, in the destination page and ultimately on your redirect page. So it's connecting the dots a lot better now. Redirects work a lot better now, but you have to make sure you use that snippet. So it was a huge update actually in how it works. Doesn't use parameters anymore. And that was a problem for a lot of people who were sending to a test, which was maybe then redirecting someplace else and things were breaking. So now you don't have to worry about that, but you do have to make sure that all your pages have the optimized snippet on them. So that's the biggest change that came out in early November 2020. I want to make sure that you've got that updated. Second, now this is not quite as big, but I also think it's kind of cool, is for those of you, now of course I mostly look at stuff in analytics. It's connected directly to Google Analytics, to Universal Analytics, and we can go take a look at everything there, which is awesome, and I love it, and it does an incredible job. However, sometimes you need a spreadsheet. You want to be able to export stuff, and you really haven't been able to do that before, except now. So you click here where a little download button now exists, and this is only for your ended tests. So the test has to be ended, and you can download into CSV file the optimized report itself or the analytics data so that you can do some slicing and dicing on your own if you so chose. So those were both released in the beginning part of November 2020. Make sure you take advantage, and especially if you have redirect tests or if you've tried this tool before and you've been frustrated with the redirect test not quite working out. Maybe that was why. It was because of the parameter issues and the parameters weren't coming through and they were breaking things. Well, now they're doing it in a whole new way. This platform may be worth taking another look at. So that was our first update. Second update, let's go in the tag manager. This one we had mentioned before because it just happened to come out, I think technically right at the end of October is when we saw it. But in early November, so technically November 5th, I think is when they announced this, there was this bulk edits thing that they rolled out. So what this really is, let's say I'm in tags here. If I want to do a bunch of different things to tags, let's say I want to pause. In fact, let's do this for real. Let's say I wanted to pause. I won't actually do it for real. It's my production. But actually, no, it's not. I can totally do this for fake. So if I wanted to pull up like all of my Facebook pixels, right? So I can come through here and I've got all my different Facebook pixels pulled up. Now I can click on all of these to select them all, and then I can delete them all, right? So this is like a little bulk editing feature that they have here. So what they've done is they've taken that functionality, and let's say I've got all my little FB pixels here. So I can go through and I can select my FB pixels. Now up here, I have that same bulk functionality, except just instead of delete, I can move them to a folder. I can pause all the tags at once. I forget what this one is. Let's make sure. This is editing triggers. I can edit all the triggers, right, on those different stages. So editing triggers. So it's everything you can do at one time. Mostly for us, I find it's going to be pausing tags if it's a certain type of tag you want to pause, or moving tags primarily. I might find this one a little more useful as we get through it to edit the triggers of everything. But by and large, this is the one, moving and pausing. I can absolutely see, and of course deleting if you don't need a certain tag group anymore. So just wanted to make sure that you knew about that. That is brand new, and it just helps the managing of things. If you're trying to do bulk changes, instead of just moving a pixel or a tag, moving a tag into a folder, moving another tag into a folder, you select a bunch, move them all, bulk, or pause them all, which sometimes is even more useful when you're like, okay, I need everything paused. You can pause them all and then unpause them all selectively. So kind of a useful feature there in Tag Manager. And that was really it, which was, kind of nice. Sometimes Tag Manager has some bigger ones. This one was more of the user experience, but it does it with tags, triggers, variables. Same mechanism exists. Now, Google Analytics 4. Remember, Universal Analytics, not really getting a ton of love anymore. Google Analytics 4 is the new kid on the block. It's the one that they're going to give early attention to, and they're continuing to do that. There were a number of changes, as I expect there's going to be month after month after month with Google Analytics 4. So my first saying, and I'll be saying this I know for months, but if you're not using Google Analytics 4 yet, you need to start playing with it. Please remember, and I'm going to go to the admin section here because this is where all these changes are anyway. You do not stop using Universal Analytics. You must keep that one going because that platform, at least right now, I'm recording this in December the 2nd, 2020. As of today, Universal Analytics is the right platform to be using because it's more useful. It's more connected to stuff. You get more results from it faster. It's 1,000 reasons why you need to keep using Universal Analytics. Do not stop this. And the reason that I say this is because I've had horror stories of people coming to us saying, oh, my agency took us off Universal Analytics and they switched us to Google Analytics 4 because they thought that was the upgrade and it's not their fault. It's because it was kind of marketed as an upgrade. And yes, in a way it is, but it's a yes and upgrade. You do not stop using Universal and then start using Google Analytics 4. You keep using Universal and then you start using Google Analytics 4. So it's a yes and. So I am in our Google Analytics 4 version because we're doing that. We know it's not going to be a perfect platform, probably for a year. But we're going to start using it so we can start learning it, so we can start getting used to it because it's radically different. Now, as we go through the Google Analytics 4 updates, one of the things that is so radically different, this is new, it came in November, I'm going to go into data streams. And again, this unfortunately can't be a whole course on Google Analytics 4. We do have that for our Measurement Marketing Academy members. There's a course called Win Google Analytics 4 Basics, and you can get everything there to set up and how to make sure that you're not messing up your Universal Analytics while you learn Google Analytics 4. We cover all of that back there. Now, in your data streams, when you set up your data stream, if you already have this set up, you go to your web data stream. The biggest changes that I am seeing are coming into this tagging settings section. So when you click on tagging settings, and this was the November changes that came through. So in your tagging settings, we go into configure your domains. This is cross-domain measurement now. Now, this is very different from what used to be. It used to be you did all of this in Tag Manager, or you had to do this with the GTag scripts if you were doing it with Analytics, Universal Analytics, and you sort of did it through code. And that's kind of a necessary thing I guess they had to do based upon that old platform. But remember, part of Google Analytics 4 is, okay, we know how the world works now. We know people use different tech and different domains. We have to make this a lot easier to measure users as they crisscross through domains. Why can't we just tell the platform, hey, these domains, treat them as the same, which is exactly what we did. So there's different ways to set up conditions, which is really nice. We used regex because we're comfortable with that, but you can set up a series of conditions and say, hey, if these conditions are true when it comes to the domain name, stitch all those together. So you do cross-domain measurement here. It's a lot easier. It's so much easier to set it up in Google Analytics 4. So practice that if you haven't already. Make sure you set that stuff up. So next is you do have this create and modify events. So this is where you can take existing events and you can modify them as they're coming in. Kind of think about this like filters to some extent in Universal Analytics. As you could change things with filters, you can modify events in Google Analytics 4. It's a slightly different way of doing it and a little more to it, but just know that that is there. And then, of course, you can create new events based on other events that are coming in as well. So you could do that. So I personally am going to try to keep all my custom events coming in from Tag Manager. I don't know necessarily why I would want to create something specific to Google Analytics 4 within Google Analytics 4, but you never know. There's probably a use case for that. Or maybe a way of, this is just another way of accomplishing what we used to accomplish in a regular filter in Universal Analytics. We'll see. But that is something that has come through, as well as, defining internal traffic. Now, this, I believe, was right in October area is where this came through. But the whole concept with this is these kind of work like filters so that you can go through. In fact, this data filter section was also new, at least officially announced, I should say. So if I come in here, you go to data filters, announced in November was this. So you can create a filter. This is actually filtering your traffic coming into the property now. Because remember, you don't have filters to a specific view, which again, I'm still on the fence about views. I really wish they had views because we're so used to them and they work really well for Universal Analytics. Maybe one day they'll do that for GA4. Right now, it's all property level, right? It's all based on that property that you've created for Google Analytics 4. So the events coming in, you can filter out your internal traffic, however you define internal traffic coming through. There's, they do have this where there's like, oh, you're testing a view. The view is currently active or it's inactive, which is kind of nice. It's nice that they have those different areas to it. But know that that is now a thing. You can set up filters. Again, don't know how exactly useful they're going to be compared to Universal Analytics filters, but this is how it works. This is the baby steps. And so you start with Google Analytics 4 when it's just getting started, because this is the smallest it will ever be. Tomorrow, it just gets bigger as a platform. It just gets more updates as a platform. So you want to be able to take advantage of the stuff that's back there now. Finally, one other feature that started coming out, and again, this is why we don't use Google Analytics 4 as our primary platform right now. It's like a secondary platform. Is in your reports, you have the audiences that are here. So you see under configure and audiences. This works, again, very similarly to the audiences that are in Universal Analytics. So you have a new audience, you create it. It looks kind of like segments do, right? Same basic idea. You can create different segmentation coming through here, and you can base it on all sessions within the same session or within a certain event. Pretty cool. You can do a little sequence, right? All this fun stuff. So when you create an audience, now, this again was right toward the end of November is when they announced this. Audiences now that you create, I should say, audiences in Google Analytics 4 that you create will automatically go into your Google Ads accounts, but you have to have them linked. So just as a reminder, if you go back to your admin, you'll see product linking right here. Click that. You just links like a regular Universal Analytics does with Google Ads. Super easy. Just make sure you're signed into the same email on both sides. It should be pretty simple for you. And you link those accounts, then your audiences from GA4 should show up in your Google Ads account. And this is why, again, just to emphasize, you do not use GA4 as your primary analytics platform, at least not yet. It is getting there. It will take some time. There is so much to it. And there's new stuff coming out all the time. So you don't have to rush into it, but you do need to get started, get your feet wet a little bit with this platform so you start to understand the structure and how it's radically different, and it is radically different from Universal Analytics. It will eventually be your primary platform, not today, but eventually it will. So make sure you have the ideas of getting started with this if you haven't already. And that's all you really need to do. You don't need to be an expert in this, but you do need to get started with it as we go through. All right, next up, as we our little final turn here, as we come across our updates, is Data Studio. Now, Data Studio, again, Team Data Studio just rocks this out every single month practically. There's something new. So whoever's on that team is drinking a lot of coffee. They are cranking some stuff out. One of those is in the data sources. So in the data source itself, and I'm just going to go into data sources here. Let's just add a data source. So now this came out in October, technically, where you could come through and you can actually connect in your Google Analytics 4, because it used to be you could not even do that. So that was last month's update back in October. In November, what they did is they allowed other fields to come through. So there was some fields that you can get from GA4, but not all fields. So if you tried to connect it and you were like, this isn't really what I wanted, it's not gonna be good enough for us, come back, because they announced it, and there's another 10 fields or so that came through, like audience name, audience ID, total revenue, ad revenue, purchase revenue. Pretty important things that were not allowed to come through first are now there. So there's a lot more fields coming through, including people that are signed in with a user ID. So that could be kind of useful to be able to segment things in Data Studio. So, and remember, that's the whole point. Tag Manager collects the information. Google Analytics, in this case, Google Analytics 4, stores the information. And then Google Data Studio is what's building your reports, so you can get the answers, so you can go take action. So reconnect Google Analytics 4 if you haven't. If you do have it in there, just refresh the fields just to make sure you're getting the freshest information that's available to you from Google Analytics 4. And I would expect that pattern to continue. You may not have everything you want today, because it's a baby platform. It's just starting out. So it's not going to be your primary platform, but it is something that you should get used to and continue to evolve with, because it's evolving in Data Studio. So that's one aspect to Data Studio. That was early November that they did that. Other updates to Data Studio, if we come back into our main report, is some conditional formatting stuff. I don't actually have any pivot tables here, but you can do conditional formatting with pivot tables. Now you can do a scale of color, right? So they've just sort of done some design-oriented things for pivot tables. Thought it was kind of cool. They have parameter-based reference lines. This is a reference line right here, so you can set up reference lines. This was something that was done a while ago. They've been able to do reference lines for a while, but now you can base them on certain parameters that are available to you. Remember, we've got fields now and parameters. So we have those two options that are available now in Data Studio, so you can play around with that. HIPAA compliance is now a thing. So there's a little agreement that you can set with HIPAA compliance. It is in your settings area of Data Studio. So if that happens to apply to you, where you're like, I would love to use Data Studio, but it's not HIPAA compliant, it might be a problem that was just solved. So jump into that, go into Data Studio on the top hand right in your settings. You will see that little feature that you can do that. And then for larger businesses, they basically made it so as long as one company, this is the final update that they did, as long as one person from the company accepted the agreement, then everybody in the company accepted the agreement, and you don't have to have 1 million people sign to the terms of service. So they sort of stopped that. They made it company-wide now. So that was more of a simple onboarding thing that Data Studio did. Other than that, not too much else out there. One thing I always look at, I don't actually know if there's anything new here, but I do always like checking out the community gallery, because it is a community gallery. This is one of the newest features that we've been playing with from Supermetrics. I believe they came out actually last month with this. We were playing with this in October. Pretty cool little community gallery feature. There's lots of different things that are always popping through here. So take a look and see, maybe I can use one of these for flight pass. I think that's kind of cool. For different, reports that you have, or some different visualizations that you want to see. Always used to stay up for that, because Data Studio, again, just continues to get better and better and better. All right. So with that, what was your one thing? I know for me, it was Optimize personally, and I know that sounds weird. I don't use Optimize that much because we don't do a lot of split testing traffic. We just don't have the traffic for that. But it's a platform that I like using for some of our clients. And even though we're not in it all the time, it was nice to see Google paying attention to it. I really liked that they redid the whole redirect URL thing. They fixed some major problems. They clearly are invested in this platform still. So love that. Can't wait to see it come into Google Analytics 4. So great stuff coming forth there, I would imagine. That was my one thing. But again, we covered that. We covered Google Analytics 4 changes that were coming forth. We covered the Data Studio changes. We covered the Tag Manager changes with bulk edits. Pick your one thing that you thought was the most useful. Go practice that. Explore that for a little bit. Then you come back and then pick another new one thing. Practice that. And that is how we build skills without getting overwhelmed and frustrated by all the changes. Now, if you like workshops like this is actually next week's workshop. It's a getting started workshop. We rotate every week. This week was the What's New workshop, where we always cover the first Wednesday of every month. We go back over the past month and say, okay, here's a list of updates and make sure you're caught up on everything. But next week's getting started. So it's for the beginners out there. And we're going to talk about the easiest way to use Google Tag Manager in WordPress, which is what we use. We love WordPress and we use Tag Manager. So we're going to show you some tricks and techniques for using Google Tag Manager there. If you have a WooCommerce store, you're going to love this one. So pay attention to this one. It's really cool. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, though. Do this right now. Just take a moment to go ahead and subscribe. I will wait. And of course, YouTube will then notify you when the live broadcasts are going out, so you can watch this at your leisure. And of course, thank you for the rest of us rest of you, I should say, who have already subscribed. We love seeing the subscriber counts going up. And thank you especially to those of you who are sharing this channel with others of your peers. I see it shared on LinkedIn and other social networks, and just people saying, hey, just saw this new thing, check it out, because we have a certain style. And hopefully that is a pretty good one for those of you who are watching this. So again, thank you for subscribing and for sharing with your peers. Now, the other way that you can get access, if you did want to learn a little bit more about measurementmarketing.io and what we have available, we have a ton of tools. They are completely free, including these workshops. So you have Workshop Wednesday that's back there. And you can always get caught up on the latest Workshop Wednesday that's there. Then you've got the Traffic Checking Toolkit, Google Analytics Report Card, Marketing Behavior Toolkit, and about 40 other things, including Google Tag Manager Cookbook. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's back there. There is a split testing and optimization pipeline that is amazing. So if any of you are doing CRO, get this just for that. It's a completely free thing, the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. It's called our Toolbox membership, and it's measure.tips/WW. Again, doesn't cost a thing. It's just our way of giving back to the community. So you get that for free. Measure.tips/WW to activate that. If you haven't already, now is the time. And if you have already, glad to see you back. I'm glad that you're here. Finally, if you're really ready to level up your skills and you want to take all the courses and learn things like Tag Manager Basics or Tag Manager Beyond Basics, maybe a little bit of Data Studio skills, maybe something around Win Google Analytics 4 Basics. Well, we have all those courses back there waiting for you at the Measurement Marketing Academy, measure.tips/getacademy. And of course, they come with our Ask an Instructor support. So you can literally send questions over to instructors in terms of videos or screenshots. Our instructors send back videos and screenshots as well. It's kind of like having a consultant on call, somebody to help you out, get unstuck and on the way, try to get you the answers within hours instead of days. So hopefully you'll find that if now's the time, check it out. It is reasonably priced considering the amount of value that we give back there. I get told all the time we have to raise the rates. Maybe one day we will. Right now, though, we're not, so take advantage of it. Measure.tips/getacademy to learn more about the Measurement Marketing Academy. And with that, we'll bring this one officially to a close. Thanks again for watching Updates. This has been What's New? Updates, November 2020. New features and updates from Google Analytics, Tag Manager, Data Studio, and even Google Optimize this time. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next workshop. Take care.